Shibam, Yemen. The Manhattan of the desert. But Manhattan's skyscrapers are steel and concrete, designed to last decades. Shibam's towers, built 500 years ago, from mud. Over 500 tower houses, some 11 stories 30 meters high. No steel, no concrete, no modern waterproofing, just earth, water, straw, and hands. And they're not ruins, they're homes. Families live where their ancestors lived 20 generations ago. Ahmed al-Sakaf, 67, was born here. His family has lived in the same tower since 1535. Ahmed meets me at his tower's base, impossibly tall and fragile. Walls thick at the bottom, narrowing upward. People see mud and think, weak, Ahmed says proudly. But mud is not weak. Mud is alive. He presses his palm against the wall. Steel rusts, concrete cracks, but mud breathes, it absorbs, it adapts. Every Friday, Ahmed and his sons climb to the roof with fresh mud plaster. They inspect, patch, smooth. Every single week. This is not maintenance, Ahmed explains. This is relationship. You don't maintain a living thing, you care for it. Inside, thick walls create natural insulation. Ahmed's wife, Fatima, 62, prepares tea. At first I was afraid, she admits. The wind shakes the walls. I thought, this cannot be safe. But my husband's grandmother, 90, then told me, this tower survived earthquakes, floods, wars. It will survive your worrying. She smiles. She was right. I stopped worrying and started listening. The tower tells you what it needs, Ahmed continues. A crack means too much sun. A bulge means water damage. You learn to read it. My grandfather taught my father. My father taught me. I'm teaching my sons. The knowledge lives in hands, not books. He holds up calloused palms. These hands know things I cannot explain. How wet the mud should be, how thick, when to wait. A university cannot teach this. A machine cannot do this. Only hands, only time. But Shibam faces crisis. Young people are leaving. Not because towers fail, but because the world promises easier lives. Ahmed's eldest son works in the capital, visits monthly, but doesn't live here anymore. I tell my sons, the world needs engineers, doctors, Ahmed says quietly, but it also needs people who keep history alive. If they leave, who will read these walls? Who will know when to patch? These towers stood 500 years, but they will not stand forever without us. Yet, there's hope. UNESCO designated Shibam a World Heritage Site. Funding came. Workshops started. Young people are learning from elders like Ahmed. They come with cameras, notebooks, Ahmed says. They want to measure, understand physics. But I put mud in their hands and say, feel, don't think, feel. Some get it, some don't, but the ones who do, he smiles. They understand. This is how civilization was built, not with machines, with hands that cared. Want to visit? Critical. As of 2025, Yemen has security concerns. Check advisories before planning. Many visit through guided tours from Oman or with local guides. If safe. Best time, October to March. Summer exceeds 45 degrees Celsius. Getting there. Shibam is in Wadi Hadramaut, eastern Yemen. Fly to Sayun, drive 20 kilometers. Organized tours recommended. Where to stay? Traditional towers converted to guest houses. Sunrise over mud towers is unforgettable. What to know? Dress conservatively. Always ask before photographing people. Watch Friday Maintenance, its living tradition. Alternative. If Yemen isn't feasible, Ait Ben Haddou in Morocco offers similar mud brick architecture and is fully accessible. Full updates and tour operators linked in description. On my last evening, Ahmed invites me to the roof. Sunset paints the desert gold. Dozens of towers rise around us. You see that tower? He points to one shorter than others. It collapsed in 2008 floods. Heavy rains washed the foundation. We rebuilt it. Took 2 years. The whole community worked together. Because here, if one tower falls, we all fall. We are not separate buildings. We are one city. He faces me. Your buildings stand alone. Tall, impressive, but alone. When one fails, you build another, faster, taller. Here, when one needs help, we help, because someday our tower will need help too. Wind picks up, and the tower sways slightly. Ahmed notices my tension. You feel that? That is not weakness, that is wisdom. A rigid building fights the wind and breaks, but a flexible building dances with the wind. It survives. We build with mud, not because we are poor. We build with mud because we are smart. Shibam teaches, true strength is not in the material, it's in the maintenance, in the community, and in working with nature, not against it. Modern architecture seeks to conquer elements, to build so strong they need no care. But permanence without care is illusion. Everything requires maintenance. Everything needs hands. Everything needs community. The question is, are we willing to give it? You've seen the photos on Instagram. Ancient monasteries floating in the sky. Cities perched on cliff edges. Tower houses built from mud. But here's what the photos never show. How did humans build these places 1,000 years ago? Without cranes, without steel beams, without modern engineering. And why? Why build where one earthquake means everything falls? These aren't just ancient ruins. They're living cities where families have lived for 30 generations. The secret? It's not in the materials. It's not in lost technology. It's in something we've forgotten in our race to build faster, taller, cheaper. From Greek monasteries 400 meters in the sky to Spanish bridges built on 34 deaths and 42 years of sacrifice, to Yemeni skyscrapers made of dirt that have stood 500 years. You'll discover architecture that redefines what's possible. Because these impossible structures aren't impossible at all. They're just built on principles we abandoned. Throughout history, humans have always built monuments to meaning. Not just for shelter, but to make statements that outlast us. Temples reaching toward the divine. Bridges connecting what nature divided. Cities rising where logic says no. These are declarations of belief. That instinct created the three most impossible structures still standing today. Places where gravity should have won, but didn't. Where time should have erased them, but hasn't. The answer isn't in the stones they placed. It's in what those stones were meant to prove. The three places you'll witness test the absolute limits of what humans can build. In Greece, Meteora, 6 monasteries perched on rock pillars 400 meters high. For centuries, the only way up was rope ladders. One mistake meant death. In Spain, Ronda, a city split by a gorge 120 meters deep. They built a bridge that took 42 years. 34 workers died during construction. Most who started never walked across. In Yemen, Shibam, the Manhattan of the desert. Over 500 tower houses, 11 stories high, built 500 years ago from mud. Still standing, still inhabited. You'll meet the descendants monks who choose isolation, bridge keepers who inherit legacy, craftsmen who maintain with bare hands what steel cannot replicate. Best time to visit, Meteora, April to May, September to October. Let's start in Greece, where getting closer to God requires climbing toward the sky. Meteora, Greece. 6 monasteries perched on sandstone pillars, rising 400 meters from the valley. The rocks, 60 million years old. The monasteries, only 600 years. Built by monks who believed the closer to heaven, the closer to God. For centuries, the only way up was rope ladders or nets pulled by monks above. One frayed rope meant death, yet they climbed and stayed. Brother Nicodemus, 55, has lived here 20 years. His father was a monk here, his grandfather before that. 3 generations, choosing isolation. Inside, the air is cool. Stone walls holding centuries of silence. Brother Nicodemus pours tea slowly, Time moves differently here. People ask, why live here? He begins. So remote, so difficult, no distractions. He smiles. But that is exactly the point. Every morning, he wakes at 4 a.m., prayers, then 400 steps down to the valley. To tend gardens, collect water, then 400 steps back up. Every single day. My knees hurt, he laughs, but my soul is lighter than ever. In the city, people are surrounded by millions and feel alone, he says. Here, we are 6 monks on a rock, and we are never alone. We didn't come to run away. We came to see clearly. He walks to the terrace edge. Below, the valley stretches vast. When you are high above the world, your problems become small, not because they don't matter, but because you see them in proper scale. Down there, people fight over land, money, words. Up here, we remember what actually matters, but isolation doesn't mean disconnection. Every week, villagers climb up with supplies. In return, monks offer blessings, prayers, continuity. We are not separate from the world, Brother Nicodemus says. We are its memory. We hold what people forget when life gets too fast. On the chapel walls, 600-year-old frescoes depict saints and martyrs. The monks who painted these never saw them finished. They painted knowing others would continue after them. They didn't paint for fame, he says quietly. They painted for God and for us. Every generation builds on what came before. We are just one link in a very long chain. Want to visit? Best time, April, May, September, October. Mild weather, fewer crowds. Base town, Kalambaka, 2 to 3 days recommended. Entry, €3 per monastery, covered shoulders and knees required. Most accessible, the Great Meteoron. But visit others, each has its own story. Pro tip, visit at sunrise or sunset. Golden light reveals why monks climbed. Full guide linked in description. Brother Nicodemus walks me to the entrance. Sunset casts shadows across the valley. You see that bridge? He points to a distant stone arch. My grandfather said it took 50 years. Most who started never saw it finished. He turns to me. In your country, you build for speed, fast results, everything optimized. A pause. We built for God, for eternity, which lasts longer. Meteora teaches, when you build toward something greater, the difficulty becomes sacred. But there's another kind of impossible, not reaching up, but bridging across, where 120 meters of empty air separates a city. And Humans decided that gap is worth crossing, even if it takes 42 years, even if it costs 34 lives. Why? The answer waits in Spain. Ronda, Spain. A city built on both sides of a crack in the earth. El Tahoe Gorge, 120 meters deep, carved by the Guadalajara River over millions of years. On one side, the old Moorish city from the 9th century. On the other, the newer Spanish town from the 15th century. Between them, nothing but air. For centuries, crossing meant descending 120 meters, crossing the river, then climbing back up. Hours of travel. Until someone decided, we will bridge this, with a monument so bold that 250 years later, people still ask, how? Carmen, 55, was born here. Her great-great-grandfather was a bridge keeper. She runs a museum inside the bridge itself in chambers where prisoners were once held. People want pretty photos, she says, but they don't want to know what it cost. Construction began in 1759. Architect José Martín de Aldehuela was 34. He never saw his bridge completed. 42 years. 42 years hauling stone, building scaffolding over a 120-meter drop. Just math, stone, and faith. 34 workers died, Carmen says, touching the wall. Falls, accidents, one scaffold collapse killed 7 in a day. She pauses at a brass plaque, names carved. My great-great-grandfather knew 3. He told his son their names. My grandfather told my father. My father told me. That's how we remember. We say their names. But the bridge isn't just functional. It's beautiful. 3 perfect arches, decorative details no one sees up close. They could have built simpler, Carmen explains. Faster, something that just worked. But Aldehuela didn't want a bridge. He wanted a legacy. She leads me to a window over the gorge. When he started, he was young. By the time it finished, he was dead. Most workers who laid the first stones never walked across. But their children did, and now, 230 years later, she gestures outside where thousands cross daily. We walk on their sacrifice every single day, but the bridge holds darker memories. During the Spanish Civil War, prisoners were thrown from here into the gorge. Hundreds, maybe more. My grandmother saw it, Carmen says. She was 12. She never forgot. For decades, Rhonda didn't talk about it. But recently, the city started remembering memorials, exhibits. You cannot erase history by ignoring it, she says. The bridge was built with sacrifice and used for violence. Both are true. We honor the builders by remembering. We honor the dead by not forgetting. Today, 33,000 people call Rhondda home, connected by a bridge that took 2 generations. Over 1 million tourists visit yearly. Most never learn the 34 names. But Carmen does, and her daughter knows them too. Legacy isn't just what you build, she tells me. It's remembering those who built it. Want to visit? Best time: spring, April, May, or fall, September, October. Summer exceeds 40 degrees Celsius. Getting there: 2 hours from Malaga or Seville. Train offers stunning views. Main attraction: Puente Nuevo. Visit the Bridge Museum inside only €2. Other highlights: Plaza de Toros, 1,785. Arab Baths, Old Town. Time needed: 1 full day minimum, 2 to fully explore. Pro tip: visit at sunset. The gorge glows golden. You'll see why Hemingway wrote here. Full guide linked in description. Standing at Puente Nuevo's edge, looking down, you feel it, the weight of connection. Not just land to land, but generation to generation. The workers who started in 1759 didn't build for themselves. They built knowing their children would walk across. We build for now, for this quarter, for immediate return. Rhondda teaches, the greatest works require patience spanning lifetimes. But there's one more place, built from the most fragile material, mud. Yet it stood 500 years, through wars, floods, sandstorms. How? Through community, through weekly rituals passed down 20 generations, through bare hands, maintaining what machines cannot replicate. That story waits in Yemen, where the desert holds the oldest skyscrapers on Earth. 3 impossible structures. 3 lessons. Build for something greater than yourself, and difficulty becomes sacred. The greatest works require patience spanning generations. Shibam strength comes not from what you build, but from who maintains it. Together, they point to what we've forgotten. We don't build fast because we're smarter. We build fast because we stopped caring what happens after we're gone. These structures are impossible only if you measure success by speed. But if you measure by meaning, by legacy, by continuity, they're not impossible. They're simply patient. 3 places, 3 lessons. When you build towards something greater, difficulty stops being a burden. It becomes sacred. Brother Nicodemus climbs 400 steps daily. His knees hurt, but his soul is lighter than ever, because he's climbing for meaning. Rhondda, the greatest works require patience spanning lifetimes. José Martindale de Huela designed a bridge he never crossed. 34 died. Most who started never saw it finished. But today, 33,000 people call Rhondda home because someone decided a gap was worth bridging, even if it took 42 years. True strength isn't in the material. It's in maintenance, community, and humility. Ahmed's family maintained the same tower for 20 generations every single week. Not because mud is strong, but because care is stronger than any material. Here's what strikes me in 2025. We measure everything by speed now. Fast food, fast fashion, fast construction, fast results. We optimize for efficiency, for the shortest path, for immediate return. And we've gotten good at it, but we've lost something. We've forgotten some things are worth doing slowly. That some gaps are worth bridging even if we never cross them. That some structures require maintenance, community, hands that care, and that's not weakness, that's wisdom. These places exist because someone asked a different question. Not how fast can we build, but what are we building for? Not will I see this finished, but will this matter after I'm gone? Not how can we make this indestructible, but who will care for this when we can't? You're probably not building monasteries, or bridges, or towers, but you're building something. A career, a family, a business, a skill, a life, and the same questions apply. Are you building for speed or for meaning? Are you building for yourself or for something that outlasts you? Are you building to conquer or to care? The world will tell you to move faster, to optimize, to scale, to get results now. And sometimes, that's right. But sometimes the most important work takes longer than your lifetime. Sometimes the strongest structures require weekly maintenance. Sometimes the best way to build is slowly, with hands that care, for something greater than yourself. If this changed how you think about building or living, let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more stories about places that teach us to live differently, hit subscribe. 3 impossible structures built by humans who decided that impossible just means not yet. That difficulty can be sacred. That patience can span generations. That strength comes from care, not just material. They're still standing. The question is, what will you build that lasts?